Everyone has their own idea of the Caribbean, be it pirates, white idyllic beaches or palm trees, but always with wonderful weather. Well, the flourishing vegetation did not come about by chance. According to various travel guides, there is always sunshine with the occasional and short rain shower. Something we experienced quite differently. There were rainy days with relatively little sunshine, but the Bajans, as the people of Barbados call themselves, take it easy with their naturally relaxed attitude. Our first day brings us to Bridgetown, the capital of Barbados. We enter the well-tended boardwalk at Wharf Road at the Carnage, a small harbour in which, except for some sport boats and catamarans, a few fishing boats are moored. The Waterfront Cafe is very popular here because it offers both a great view of the harbour and the Parliament. Barbados looks back on a long parliamentary history. It has the third oldest parliament in the Commonwealth. In 1639, the House of Burgess was instituted as the first parliament. Following conflicts with England, the rights of Parliament and the people of Barbados were laid down in the Barbados Charter, or Articles of Agreement. This constitution guaranteed, among other things, freedom of religion, rule of law, property, and extensive parliamentary rights, as well as independence. On February the 10th, 2012, the port of Bridgetown saw the highest amount of incoming ships on a single day, when 7 cruise ships made a stop in Barbados, bringing 12,164 guests and 4,129 crew to the island. According to our experience, there are usually only 2 to 3 ships there each day. Of course, this influx of visitors leaves an impact on the island itself. Tours can be overlapping and hotspots overrun. While visiting the Sunbury Plantation House, we witnessed about 10 buses on the parking lot trying to maneuver. Masses of tourists were led into the building. We saved ourselves the trouble of an overcrowded visit. You can easily reach most of the destinations we mention here for a day trip if you arrange for a taxi. Taxis are available directly at the harbour and are, according to several forums, both punctual and reliable. A 6 to 7 hours walk would be enough to visit some beautiful and not so overcrowded places, because the island only covers an area of 167 square miles. Day trippers from cruise ships who come to Barbados on Sundays are out of luck. Only very few shops are open on Sunday, Broad Street or not. Opening hours are in line with the docking times of the cruise ships. Most shops close at 4 p.m. The cityscape could not be any more diverse. Historical buildings alternate with modern, functional buildings. We don't really miss those chain stores as we know them from German and other European cities that make them so very alike. Broad Street, with its imposing new bank buildings and pricey brand stores, is only of little interest to us. We find Swan Street to be more interesting because of its quaint little shops where you can buy almost anything. Fruit merchants have the easiest time. They display their wares in front of the shops for everyone to see. After picking up our car, we decide to venture to the most distant location for our first tour, from St. Lawrence Gap in the south to North Point. Here is where the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea meet. Getting there in left-hand traffic is a somewhat unfamiliar experience, but the Bajans are cautious drivers. All rental cars are marked with an H on the license plate, and most of the time driving mistakes of untrained tourists are generously overlooked. Most drivers obey the speed limits of 60 within city limits and 80 kilometers an hour on highways anyway. There are only a few traffic lights on Barbados, but lots of roundabouts to make up for it. On our route to the north, we passed 16 roundabouts before we even left Bridgetown. The network of roads is relatively well developed and covers a distance of about 994 miles. Unfortunately, some of the roads are in a totally desolate state, especially some of the remote ones in the north, that only permit a zigzagging course at walking pace if you don't want to say goodbye to your axle. And yes, as in all other countries, there are laws against drunk driving on Barbados. Oddly enough, the legislature simply forgot to specify the legal limit. Something to be remedied in the future, but the wheels of justice grind slowly here. The Animal Flower Cave lies at the north end of the island, North Point in St. Lucie. In the shop, we quickly got to know the ticket seller Theodore and one of the tour guides. The latter has guided tourists for many years and is known as the Caveman. Both provide us with useful tips about sights to see on the island off the beaten path of mass tourism. The shop is adorned with postcards from all over the world. Everyone has left their mark here, from Jane Doe from Anytown to Rowan Atkinson, who's better known as Mr. Bean. If you manage to descend the steep steps down to the caves, you'll be impressed by the force of the waves that have eroded the cave. In one of the caves, a small pool has formed that is great for refreshing oneself, while at the same time offering a wonderful view of the Atlantic Ocean. So don't forget to bring a swimsuit and towel. We have visited many countries all over the world and seen our fair share of beaches, but the most beautiful one was, and still is, Bottom Bay. Surrounded by scenic rocks and lined with lush palm trees, the bay is an exclusive meeting place for nature lovers, photographers and romantics, because there are no big hotels in sight, so most of the time it's completely deserted. Except for us, there was only one couple on the beach. The beach is, however, not easy to find, but taxi drivers know their way around and get their patrons to the steep stairs that lead down to the beach. Here at the southeast coast, the waves of the ocean have significantly more force than on the more protected west coast, which makes this remote place even more magical. If you want to take pictures undisturbed on Barbados, then Sunday morning is the time to do it. The streets are empty because the Bajans attend church on Sunday. There are more than 100 religious groups. Among them are Buddhists, Hindus, Jews, Methodists, Mormons, Muslims, Rastafarians, and of course Christians, to only name a few. When the first English colonists landed in Old Town in 1627, the priest quickly had a church erected for his young community. The early English colonists then created a complete system of Anglican parish churches. Many of them were destroyed by hurricanes, but always quickly rebuilt. In Bridgetown, we visit the Anglican Cathedral Church of St. Michael. In comparison to Canterbury Cathedral, this church is rather small, but a cathedral it is nonetheless. Not far away, there is one of the oldest synagogues in the New World, with its own museum. The museum documents Jewish history in Barbados that can be traced back to their arrival in 1627. In the adjoining cemetery, there are still some graves of the earliest Jewish settlers. Leaving Bridgetown and heading north, the scenery of Barbados changes. Simple chattel houses change into magnificent manors with polished plates and sprucely dressed servants. Amid this so-called Platinum Coast, and approximately 6 miles north of Bridgetown, for solvent clientele. We were very unlucky during our 2 visits to Old Town. The weather was really bad. The young Bajans wouldn't mind, but for wealthy tourists, this would be an absolute no-no. On May 14, 1625, Captain Powell and his British colonists claimed the island for the King of England, James I. They called the parish St. James, as it is still called today, not knowing that James I in the meantime had died. Chattel Village in Old Town is based on the chattel houses of the Bajans. Here you can find souvenirs for your loved ones at home or small keepsakes for yourself. Town, and its population of 40,000 people, is situated a bit further to the north. The town is much more traditional than glamorous Hull Town. The Fisherman's Pub is definitely worth a visit if simple fish or meat dishes are your thing, and you like your pub to be charming and rustic. You can combine your own meal from the buffet and enjoy it outside while relaxing with a view of the sea. Going down Main Street and Church Street, you can still admire the faded relics of its once glorious past. The town was founded by the British in 1630. The town got its name from William Spite, who was an early settler and owned land on which the town is now built. This rather quiet town is also called Little Bristol, because in former times, ships laden with sugar and rum headed for London and Bristol. You should definitely avoid the local supermarket on Saturday afternoon, because you can end up waiting in line for an hour or two. The Bayesians use this time to share the latest gossip, and again, we can only admire their laid-backness, as such is unknown for us at home. Crane Beach is also situated on the southeastern coast of Barbados and not far from Bottom Bay. It's easy to reach, has the typical Caribbean atmosphere, and is relatively broad in comparison to the beaches of the west coast. Turquoise blue water and almost white sands make for the perfect Caribbean idyll. In contrast to Bottom Bay, Crane Beach is a busy place, but not too overcrowded. You can get there either by driving along a narrow path directly above the beach or by going through the luxurious Crane Hotel. Taking the narrow path can be a little tricky, but we have always quickly found a parking spot. Here and elsewhere in Barbados, the same rule applies. No beach can be private property. All beaches must be freely accessible. Chalky Mount is situated in the parish of St Andrew. Tourists on Barbados who want to visit one of the many potteries are usually brought to a certain large pottery, but we don't want to visit that one and decide to drive to Chalky Mount to some of the smaller potteries. You can watch the local potters work in their traditional shops. They work with clay from the region as they have done for hundreds of years. Simply walk into one of the shops and take a look at the freshly made crucibles, pots and jugs, or ask the potter if he would like to demonstrate his crafting skills. Many do so gladly, as does John. He gets his working material right from the mount here, so he explains. The clay needs to be soaked in water for about a week before it can be worked with further.
I place the liquid clay into the sun. After 5 or 6 days, the sun evaporates so water leaves in the night. Okay, I see. I then bring here. This is very important. It's called vegging. Take a syrup in here. Also evens the clay body to one consistency. I make a plant pot for plants. Hi. Rose taller. Now I concentrate on the shape.
Support.
Now
I don't take
the
it off.
oven.
Yeah. I first take it off.
Outside the potteries, we enjoy a fantastic view of hills and valleys down to the Atlantic Ocean. From Chalky Mount, it's only a short walk down to the wild beaches of the east coast, which are very popular with surfers. Cattle Wash Beach is not so well known because the famous Bathsheba pools and their rugged rock formations are only a few minutes further down south. But unjustly so in our view. It's an almost untouched solitary beach where we repeatedly made stops for a picnic during our journeys. In contrast to the busy beaches of the west and south, you can only hear the wild waves rolling ashore here. Cattle Wash is most popular with the locals because the fresh sea breeze of the east coast is said to have healing powers. According to legend, Cattle Wash Beach owes its name to a farmer who washed his cattle in the sea here. We recommend that if you have the time and are in the mood for it, enjoy the refreshing breeze of this coastal region and take a mild walk down the beach from Cattle Wash to the Bathsheba pools. Foul Bay is a small and idyllic bay bordered by cliffs on the southeast. It's very popular with the Bajans who come to the bay for a picnic on holidays. But there are no shops here, nor restaurants, changing rooms or restrooms. During our visit, we were almost the only ones there, except for some natives who would for a fee get us some coconuts or some 65 feet tall palm trees. It is Barbados' rugged east coast that incites visitors to take a deep breath and delights them with its breathtaking beauty. Broad white sand beaches stretch along a coastline with imposing rocky cliffs. This is the part of Barbados that has been captured on photos and filmed thousands of times. Legend has it that Bathsheba, wife of King David, bathed in milk to keep her skin nice and soft. It also says that the foaming crests of the waves in Bathsheba are similarly rich in minerals, just like the healthy bath of King David's wife. What at first looks like huge rocks that washed ashore are in fact pieces of an age-old coral reef. During the course of millennia, the coral reef has been dissolved and only these bizarre sculptures have remained. In the village of Bathsheba, there is a small community of fishermen and their families. Along the east coast, there are inns, local rum shops, and various restaurants. They provide refuge for the discerning tourist and relief for Bajans who come here to their bungalows, often on weekends which lie along the coast. Experienced surfers from all over the world come here to Soup Bowl, as Bathsheba is also called, to compete with each other. It's tempting to walk across the shallow coral reef, but the waves with their strong undercurrents can pull you into open water. You should always meet the powerful forces of nature with a sense of caution and respect. The South Coast Boardwalk was opened in 2012 and has been a popular meeting spot for joggers and people who love memorable sunsets ever since. It begins at the popular Accra Beach and runs about 1.2 miles up north along the coast. Now a few facts about Barbados to accompany the images of the boardwalk. Barbados is a parliamentary monarchy with Queen Elizabeth II as head of state and Prime Minister Stewart as head of government. Queen Elizabeth II is represented by the local Governor-General. Barbados has a population of 280,000 and covers an area of 167 square miles. The name Barbados is of Portuguese origin and means the bearded ones. The Portuguese discoverer, Pedro Campos, was reminded of beards by the hanging roots of the fig trees and thus named the island after them. In 1536, the Spanish conquistadores enslaved many natives for work on the plantations on other islands. The remaining indigenous population fled the island, so the English found a deserted island about a century later. In 1625, the English took over the island from the Portuguese. In 1627, Great Britain began colonizing the deserted island, bringing in slaves from Ireland and from the whole of the British colonies. Barbados's economy has depended upon the production of sugarcane that's shipped to England since the early 1640s. In 1655, for example, the island exported around 8,000 metric tons to its European home country, making it one of the largest sugarcane producers in the world. Even today, production of sugar and rum are the most dominant industrial sectors of Barbados, although tourism plays an important role as well. Cultivation of corn and other produce are of less importance. The oil refinery processes Barbados's own crude oil as well as imported. Dover Beach has a very good infrastructure. On the beach, there are many shops and snack bars where you can buy food and drink and swim gear you might have forgotten at home. There are plenty of deck chairs and parasols which can be rented for 20 Barbados dollars, which is around €7.50 for a pair of chairs and a parasol. These are 2014 prices. You should have the rental staff choose your deck chair and parasol because not all of them, although unoccupied, are available, and the ladies and gents living in retirement in the adjacent resort will defend their beach furniture with their lives. Dover Beach is situated in the middle of the popular St. Lawrence Gap, down on the south coast of the island. Although there are no strong currents in this region, the sea is still lively here. Therefore, like on most other popular beaches, there are one or more lifeguards on duty here. Single ladies on the beach won't be unattended for long, if they so wish. But the Bajans are, as always, friendly and decent, at least as far as we could tell. The local Rastafarians are very inventive and make use of the natural resources found on the island. They extract aloe vera directly from the plants and bottle the gel in flasks.
Coconut. Having a good time though? You like Barbados?
The product, which is entirely free from chemical additives, has a cooling effect, especially when having light sunburn. But it should be used up quickly, because the gel that we bought became reddish in colour within 2 days, after which we were unwilling to apply it to our skin. We were never asked for money by the Rastafarians. They either shared voluntarily or not at all. Some Rastafarians live directly on the beach. During a walk on the beach early in the morning, I was still drowsy, but greeted by Rick, the Rastafarian who owns the coconut stand. He just got up from his chair. On Dover Beach, we were particularly impressed by the little rum shop Scotty's that cannot be overlooked with its colourful decoration. To reach it, just follow the road that runs along the beach roughly 220 yards to the east. Inside, you can combine your own meal from the buffet. It is genuinely traditional home cooking, and most of the time there is something for everyone. Fish, poultry, pork, delicious rice and pasta casseroles, or mixed vegetables are offered in daily alternation. Here, the Bajans buy their food and sit outside, drinking a tasty and locally brewed Banks beer or rum. The sunset at St. Lawrence Gap, or just Gap, is something we could experience numerous times. People meet during happy hours in one of the many bars on the beach and enjoy the sight of the setting sun with a daiquiri or rum punch. In all of Barbados, St. Lawrence Gap was the only place where we encountered any beggars. All travel guides strongly advise against giving them any money, otherwise your circle of friends will grow spontaneously for the rest of your holiday. But most of the time you are only asked for pocket change in a friendly manner, and nobody reacts negatively if not given anything. Saying no in a friendly but firm way is acceptable. But there was an old woman who thanked everyone with a "Thank you, sir, and a Happy New Year," day in, day out, regardless of having been given any money or not. And that was at the end of February. After sunset, people start coming out to the Gap, and the hungry sun worshippers stroll down the streets. The food offered here ranges from fancy a la carte menus handed to you on the street to small bars selling delicious snacks directly on the street. Almost every evening there are one or more bars that offer karaoke. It's quite impressive how many undiscovered talents live on Barbados. But in Barbados's nightlife district there are also concerts live on the streets and several clubs that will keep you entertained the whole night. Or just go and grab a burger. Miami Beach, also known as Enterprise Beach, and just around the corner from Oistins on the south coast of Barbados, is known for its soft, pinkish white sand. Miami Beach is very popular with the locals, who enjoy spending a quiet day on the beach with their children, because the sea is very calm and the beach slopes gently. Nonetheless, a lifeguard is always present because safety is the first priority here, and a careless swimmer might get too close to the cliffs. Everything that families, couples or singles might wish for is available here. Sun lounges, parasols, showers, restrooms and numerous snack bars. At weekends, many families meet on the beach, so it might get a little crowded in the shady spots. Tourists should rather visit the beach during the weekdays because there are much fewer people around. Friday is the best day because you can crown the day with dinner at the Fish Fry near Oistins. As far as we could tell, Oistins Beach is one of the quietest beaches of the southeastern coast. Although restrooms and showers are available here, there is no lifeguard on duty. Even though there aren't as many waves and undercurrents as in the east, you should always keep an eye on the fishing boats, because the fishermen are not always watchful of swimmers while arriving and leaving. The pier makes for a good opportunity to swim with turtles. The turtles know that fish offal is dumped into the sea here daily and are thus not easily startled by the strangers with those odd snorkels. But they tend to disappear quickly once feeding is over. For visitors to Barbados, there are plenty of opportunities to swim with turtles all over the island. Somewhere else on the island, we observed this more closely. There is something meditative about a crowd of 20 or 30 divers swimming with 2 or 3 turtles. Fish is processed immediately in large buildings on the beach, shipped elsewhere or sold directly to the customers. Flying fish is the most favourite sort and tastes truly marvellous. If you are interested and have the money, the fish will be cooked to your liking there on the spot. You can't get it fresher. You can watch the fishermen on the beach mending their nets and doing other repairs after fishing, and they usually don't mind a bit of small talk either. After work, they sit in one of the many beach bars playing a game of dominoes or some kind of floor-based table tennis and enjoy 1 or 2 of those tasty Banks beers. The weekly fish fry takes place every Friday and Saturday. Here, the Bajans and tourists meet to eat, drink and dance. There are restaurants and snack bars with picnic tables, but you should not arrive too late because the place fills up quickly with hungry people. It all starts around 6 p.m. and everyone is entertained by ever-present reggae and calypso music that comes from enormous loudspeakers. For Barbados, prices are more than moderate. You should definitely try the macaroni pie as a side dish, which alone will ruin your diet, but it tastes really delicious. Everything is kept simple, with the use of disposable tableware, but after the second glass of rum, you tend to ignore this superficiality and focus on the main sorts of fish, meat and poultry. In this film about Barbados, there is unfortunately no chapter on its national sport, cricket. Although I lived next to a cricket field, I could not understand the rules even until the end of our stay. Viewers from the Commonwealth are asked to forgive me for that. If you discover Barbados on your own, you will either rent a car or go by bus. The Moke is the car of choice for nice weather. This small car has no doors and is thus pleasantly cool during hot weather. Nonetheless, the weather can change relatively quickly, so it might get a little wet inside the car. And because of our filming equipment, the car wasn't suitable for us. While driving around the countryside, we came across chickens, almost everywhere, wandering about freely. Beyond that, there aren't many different types of animals on Barbados. There are a couple of monkeys further inland, some small lizards, goats and cows, but that's about it. Most Bajans live in so-called chattel houses. These are smaller two-room buildings without basements that are set on a foundation of blocks. The advantage of these houses is that they can be completely disassembled and moved. That's why they are only made of wood and assembled without nails or screws. Living and moving this way has historical reasons. During the plantation days, people owned the house but not the land. In case of trouble with the plantation owners, workers could simply move somewhere else quickly. The Bajans make up for the plain architecture with their creative use of colour. Along with tourism, sugarcane and rum, which is a product of sugarcane, are the most important sources of income for Barbados. Driving inland, you can pass by endless sugar and banana plantations. All over the island, there are rum shops selling the rum that has been made from the local sugarcane. Very cheap and delicious meals are also sometimes served. Rita's Chickens rum shop was an insider tip, especially among German tourists. It's located in a remote area beyond Oistins. We found directions on the internet, otherwise we would have missed that incredibly crispy chicken. Unfortunately, Rita has since passed away, but her daughter now runs the business. Probably the two tallest baobab trees in the Caribbean are on Barbados. The tallest one is in Queen's Park in Bridgetown, and it would take about 15 adults to form a circle around the tree. It's presumed that just one seed made the journey from West Africa across the Atlantic Ocean to Barbados. With these pictures of Barbados's lush nature, I bid farewell and hope to have left an impression of the Bajans' friendly and positive way of life and their wonderful island.